Keanu Reeves sat by the window of the small private jet, his face pressed lightly against the cold glass. The sun had barely broken through the thick clouds, casting the runway in a dull, almost gray light. He was exhausted but calm, his mind drifting between the scenes of the movie he had just wrapped up in Toronto and the thought of his quiet home waiting for him in Los Angeles. He had chosen this early morning flight hoping to avoid the crowds and the chaos. He never liked special treatment, but traveling alone in a private jet gave him a small bubble of peace. As he sipped a cup of plain black coffee, he watched the ground crew load the last bags into the belly of the plane. There was something comforting about the steady rhythm of it. But inside the cockpit, the pilot, a man named Adam, was frozen. His eyes scanned the freshly printed passenger list again and again. Sweat gathered at the edge of his hairline, and his fingers drummed nervously on the clipboard. He had flown many celebrities before, but something about this list sent a chill down his spine. He looked back at his co-pilot, a young woman named Leela, who noticed the pale color draining from his face. "What's wrong?" Leela asked in a low voice, careful not to be overheard through the slightly open cockpit door. Adam leaned closer. "Look at this list. See the last name. Do you know who that is?" Leela squinted at the paper. "Austin Brady, isn't he that tech investor guy? The one who got arrested?" Adam's throat tightened. "Yeah, that's the one. And he's not supposed to be on this flight. They said only Keanu and his assistant were booked. Why is he here? And look at the name under it. John Parsons. That's his security man. But he's got a record too." Leela's brow furrowed. She peeked out the cockpit door. A tall man in a slick suit with sharp eyes was sitting near the back. Next to him was a man with thick arms and a cold stare. They didn't look like they belonged on a calm flight with someone like Keanu. "We should say something," Leela whispered, her pulse quickening. "We should stop the flight. Check their papers. Maybe they're using fake names." Adam hesitated. They both knew that refusing to fly a high-profile client could mean losing their jobs. But something inside him felt wrong, like a tight knot twisting in his gut. He had heard rumors about Austin Brady, about how he'd used his money to silence people who got too close to the truth. Adam's hand shook as he reached for the intercom, then pulled it back. He needed to be sure. In the cabin, Keanu sensed something was off. He glanced up from his coffee and noticed Adam standing just outside the cockpit, his eyes flicking nervously between the passengers. Keanu placed his cup on the foldable table and called him over. "Everything okay, Adam?" Keanu asked gently, his voice carrying the same warmth that made strangers trust him instantly. Adam's lips parted, but no words came out at first. Then he leaned down and whispered, "Sir, I need to speak with you in private, please." Keanu nodded, stood up, and they moved toward the galley at the back of the plane. The hum of the engines made a soft white noise that almost drowned out Adam's shaky voice. "I don't want to alarm you, sir," Adam began, his eyes darting toward the passengers up front. "But there are 2 men on this flight who were not on the original manifest. I double-checked the security clearance, but I can't confirm how they got on board." Keanu's eyes narrowed slightly. "Who are they?" Adam swallowed. "Austin Brady and his bodyguard, John Parsons." Keanu's expression stayed calm, but his mind raced. He remembered hearing about Austin's case in the news, shady business deals, hush money, and threats. He also remembered turning down an offer from Austin to invest in one of his new ventures. That was months ago, but Keanu had felt something was off then too. "Do you think there's a danger?" Keanu asked in a low, steady tone. Adam nodded slowly. "I don't want to take any chances, sir. But if I refuse to fly, I could lose my license. I need your permission to stand my ground." Keanu looked out the tiny galley window. The tarmac stretched out endlessly, the morning mist wrapping around the plane like a ghost. He felt a strange chill run up his spine. He knew this was more than just a random mix-up. His instincts told him so. Double quotes Adam, he said softly, placing a reassuring hand on the pilot's shoulder. "You won't lose your job. I'll back you up. Safety first. If you feel something is wrong, trust it." Adam felt a weight lift off his chest, but it was quickly replaced by the tension of what was coming next. He and Keanu stepped back into the cabin. Keanu locked eyes with Austin Brady, who raised his eyebrows and smirked, as if he knew exactly what was happening. Adam cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay, but we need to conduct a security rate check before takeoff. Please remain seated." Austin's smirk faded, replaced by a cold glare. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with fake politeness. "Is there a problem, Captain?" Adam met his gaze, feeling the weight of Keanu's trust behind him. "Yes, sir, there is." At that moment, the tension in the cabin thickened like a heavy fog. Keanu sat back down, but his eyes never left Austin. He knew they had just cracked open a door that would lead to secrets far darker than he had ever imagined. And this was just the beginning. What Keanu didn't know yet was that the next few hours would test his courage and kindness in ways that would shock the world and change his life forever. The tension inside the small jet felt heavy, like the air itself had grown thicker. Adam, the pilot, returned to the cockpit, but his eyes kept flicking to the security camera feed showing the cabin. Beside him, Leela shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her fingers drumming against the control panel. Keanu Reeves sat back in his chair, his mind working through every possible scenario. He had always trusted his gut, and right now it told him something was deeply wrong. He glanced across the aisle at Austin Brady, who was whispering to his bodyguard, John Parsons. Their faces were calm, like men who knew they had an advantage no one else could see. Keanu's assistant, Maria, leaned close and whispered, "Should we get off the plane? Call security?" Keanu shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see how this plays out. We don't want to panic anyone." Adam's voice came over the cabin intercom, a thin thread of forced calm in his tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor technical issue. Please remain seated while we resolve it." Austin Brady let out a soft laugh that only Keanu could hear. "Minor technical issue, is that what we're calling it?" he asked, his tone sharp but laced with mock politeness. Keanu looked him straight in the eyes. "Is there something you'd like to share with me?" Austin's grin widened, but his eyes stayed cold. "Nothing at all, just enjoying the ride. You know how these things are, delays, glitches, all part of the game." Keanu didn't respond. He had dealt with men like this before, men who wore expensive suits and cologne that cost more than some people's rent, men who believed money could buy their way onto any flight, into any room, through any locked door. While the cabin sat in uneasy silence, Adam made a quiet call to ground control. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he explained that two unverified passengers were on board. He knew he might be crossing a line, but something in his gut told him that if they took off, they might never land safely. "Control, this is Private Jet Alpha 37. Adam said into the headset. "Request immediate security personnel at runway 12. Possible threat on board. Requesting instructions." The voice on the other end was calm but direct. "Roger that, Alpha 37. Hold your position. Security team is en route. Do not attempt takeoff." Back in the cabin, John Parsons leaned toward Austin. His low voice carried just enough for Keanu to catch a few words. "Boss, we should have used a different flight. This one's getting eyes on us." Austin Brady's jaw tensed. He turned to Keanu, his smile gone. "So this is how it's going. You think you're better than me? You think you're some hero?" Keanu's voice was soft but clear. "I don't think I'm better than anyone, but I do believe in doing the right thing. You shouldn't be here, Austin. You know that." A flash of anger crossed Austin's face. "The right thing? You think walking away from my deal was the right thing? You embarrassed me in front of my partners. You cost me millions. Now you're going to cost me my freedom." Keanu sat perfectly still, his breathing steady. "I didn't cost you anything. Your choices did." The bodyguard shifted, his hand sliding into his jacket pocket. Keanu's eyes caught the movement instantly. His pulse quickened, but he kept his voice calm. "John, whatever you're reaching for, think carefully. There are cameras everywhere. If you do something stupid now, you'll make this worse for yourself." John's fingers paused, then slowly came out empty. He leaned back, his expression stony. Outside, a pair of black security vehicles pulled up beside the jet. Uniformed officers stepped out. their radios crackling as they coordinated. Adam's voice came back over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare to disembark for a mandatory security check." The words had barely landed when Austin shot up from his seat. "You're going to regret this. Reeves, you think they care who you are. You think they'll protect you when I'm gone." Keanu stood too, his calm presence like a wall between Austin and the rest of the passengers. "I don't need protection from people who only have power when they can buy silence." As the cabin door opened, the cool morning air rushed in. The officers stepped on board, moving quickly but carefully. They surrounded Austin and John, speaking in low, firm voices. Austin struggled, cursing under his breath, his fancy suit now just a costume for a man who had lost control. As he was led away, Austin turned back to Keanu one last time. "This isn't over, Reeves. You're going to wish you'd never stepped on this plane." Keanu didn't flinch. He simply watched as the man disappeared down the metal steps and into the waiting car. Maria came up beside him, her hands still shaking. "Do you think he'll come after you?" Keanu let out a slow breath, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Maybe, but I'd rather face the truth than live afraid." Adam came out of the cockpit, his face pale but relieved. "Thank you, sir. If you hadn't backed me up, I don't know what would have happened." Keanu placed a hand on Adam's shoulder. "You did the right thing. We all did." But deep inside, Keanu felt a cold whisper of unease. He knew men like Austin Brady didn't just disappear. Secrets like this didn't just vanish in the wind. What he didn't know yet was that this was just the first move in a dangerous game, and the next step would strike much closer to home. The sky above Los Angeles was streaked with orange and purple as the sun dipped behind the hills. Keanu Reeves sat alone in his garden, the faint hum of city life drifting up the slope like a distant song. The roses he had planted last spring swayed gently in the evening breeze. For a moment, he let himself feel safe, but that moment was brief. His mind replayed the scene on the plane again and again. The look in Austin Brady's eyes as the officers dragged him away, the threat in his voice, the way John Parsons had slipped his hand inside his jacket so easily, like it was second nature to carry hidden things. Keanu had learned long ago to trust the quiet voice inside him, the one that whispered when danger lurked. Now, that voice was loud. He knew Austin wouldn't stay silent for long. His phone buzzed on the small table beside him. He picked it up and saw Maria's name. He answered quickly, trying to keep his voice calm. "Hey, Maria," on the other end. Her voice trembled. "Keanu, I just got home. There was someone in my apartment." Keanu's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" The door was open. "My stuff was moved around. Nothing was stolen, but there was an envelope on my kitchen table. No name, no stamp, just sitting there." Keanu's hand clenched into a fist. "What was inside?" "A picture," Maria whispered. "It was a photo of you, on the plane, sitting by the window. Someone took it from behind, through the crack in the cockpit door." Keanu felt his stomach twist. "Did you call the police?" "Yes, they're here now, but they said without a direct threat. There's not much they can do." "Keanu, what do you think they want?" Keanu looked out over the garden, the colors fading into deep blue. "They want me to know they can get close. That's what this is. Intimidation. Should I quit?" Maria asked, her voice breaking. "I don't want to bring this to your doorstep, no." Keanu said firmly, "You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. Listen to the police. Stay with someone you trust tonight. I'll handle the rest." After they hung up, Keanu sat very still. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders like a heavy coat. He had faced pain and loss before, but this felt different. This felt like a test of the very thing he had tried so hard to protect: his kindness, his trust in people, his belief that good could stand firm against fear. Inside his house, Keanu locked every door and window. He pulled out a small box from his desk drawer, the one that held memories of old letters, photographs, and the ring his mother had given him when he first left home. Buried under these memories was a business card worn at the edges, but the name was clear: Detective Joanna Hart. He hadn't called her in years. She had helped him once before, when an obsessed fan had broken into his house and hid in his library. For hours, waiting for him to come home, She had found the truth when no one else could. She was tough, honest, and had never asked him for favors. Keanu dialed the number. It rang once, twice, then clicked. Double quotes heart. Joanna, it's Keanu. I need your help. There was a short silence on the line. It's been a while, Reeves. You in some kind of trouble? Not yet, he said quietly. But I think someone wants to change that. The next morning, Joanna met him at a small diner tucked away behind a row of faded shops. She wore a dark blazer and carried a notebook, her eyes sharp and searching. She listened as Keanu told her everything about the flight, the passenger list, the threats, the photo left in Maria's apartment. Sounds like they're trying to rattle you, Joanna said, stirring her black coffee. These guys have money, connections, and if half the rumors about Austin Brady are true, they're used to buying silence. Keanu nodded. So what do? We find out how deep this goes. She said, if they wanted to hurt you, they would have done it already. This is leverage. They want you scared, off balance. So we stay calm. We gather proof, and we expose them before they can strike again. Keanu felt a flicker of hope. You really think we can? Joanna looked him in the eye. I think you've spent your whole life trying to do the right thing, Keanu. You've got more friends than you know. We'll dig until we find the truth. As they spoke, neither of them noticed the man sitting at the booth across from them, hidden behind a newspaper. He wore a plain jacket and a ball cap pulled low. Every now and then, he glanced up just enough to catch a glimpse of Keanu's face, then went back to scribbling something on the edge of the newspaper. Outside the diner, the same man made a call from a payphone. His voice was low, almost casual. He's onto us, he said. He's got a cop helping him now. The voice on the other end was cold and impatient. Then fix it. Make him back off. Remind him what's at stake. The man hung up and turned to look back through the diner window. Inside, Keanu and Joanna were deep in conversation, their faces tense but determined. They had no idea they were already being watched. They had no idea how close the danger really was, and they couldn't possibly know that the next move would break through the last layer of safety. Keanu had left his home, his people, and the trust he had always believed could keep the darkness away. It was late evening when Keanu Reeves stepped through his front door, his mind still replaying every word Joanna had said at the diner. The city lights blinked outside his windows, but inside his house, shadows seemed to cling to every corner. He set his keys on the small table by the door, listening for any sign that something was off. Silence, too much silence. He walked through each room slowly. The kitchen was neat, the dishes stacked exactly how he'd left them. His living room was just as he remembered, the old guitar leaning against the couch, a book of poetry open beside it. Yet still, a feeling of wrongness crept up his spine. He checked the locks again, all secure, but as he turned toward the hallway, he saw a single envelope sitting on his doorstep inside the house. Keanu's single quotes heart sank. Someone had been inside again. With careful hands, he picked up the envelope and carried it to his dining table. He sat down, feeling the weight of every breath. He opened it. Inside was a photograph, this time, not of him, but of Maria. It showed her walking to her car, her face tired but unaware she was being watched. Scrawled on the bottom corner in dark ink were 4 words, "Back off or else." Keanu's jaw tightened. He dialed Joanna immediately. She answered on the first ring. "Joanna, they were inside my house," he said, voice low and steady. "They left me another photo, Maria, this time. Are you okay?" Joanna asked. "I'm fine. But they're watching us. Then we watch back," she said firmly. "I'm coming over. Don't do anything alone." Within 30 minutes, Joanna pulled up in an unmarked car. She stepped inside Keanu's house, scanning every corner like a hawk. She placed the photo in an evidence bag and checked the doors, windows, and security system. "Your cameras were disabled," she said, frowning. "Professional job. They're telling you they can get close anytime they want." Keanu rubbed his forehead. "They want me scared. They want me to feel helpless, are you?" she asked. Keanu looked her in the eyes, something strong and unshakable behind his tired gaze. "No, I won't let them do this. They think they can scare people into silence. But they picked the wrong person this time. Joanna gave a small smile. Good. Then let's turn this around. Tomorrow we go to the source. Keanu raised an eyebrow. You mean? Yes. We talked to someone on the inside. Someone who used to work for Austin Brady. I know a guy. Used to handle his security before he got spooked and quit. He might talk. Keanu leaned back, thinking about the risks. What if they come after him too? Then we protect him. We protect everyone. This is how these people lose. They rely on fear. When good people stand together, that fear breaks apart. The next day, under the cover of dawn, Keanu and Joanna drove across town to a small auto shop near the industrial district. The place looked abandoned, except for a single light flickering in the back. They parked down the block, careful to check if they were being followed. Inside the shop, they found the man they were looking for, a mechanic named Vince. He was in his 50s, thick hands stained with oil, eyes darting nervously as he wiped grease from a wrench. I know why you're here, Vince said before they could speak. I can't get involved. If they find out I talked to you, they already know we're looking, Keanu said gently. They broke into my house. They threatened my assistant. If we don't stand up to them now, they'll keep doing this to other people. Vince's eyes flicked to Joanna, then back to Keanu. He seemed to see something in Keanu's calm, unshaken face, something that gave him a sliver of courage. He's got files, Vince whispered. Austin Brady. He keeps everything. Blackmail, deals, bribes on a hard drive, locked in a storage unit on the west side. He calls it his insurance policy. If anything ever goes wrong, he uses it to buy his way out. Joanna's eyes narrowed. You're sure? 100%. I used to drive him there. It's off the books. Nobody knows the address except a handful of his men. If you get that drive, you'll have enough to bury him. Keanu felt something shift inside him, a spark of hope mixing with a rising storm of determination. Can you get us in? Vince hesitated, looking at the oil-stained floor. I can show you where it is, but you'll need to be smart. These guys, they're always watching. Before they left, Vince scribbled the address on a torn scrap of paper. He pressed it into Keanu's palm, like he was handing him the last piece of a puzzle he'd hidden for years. Be careful, Vince said. Once you get close, they'll know. Keanu squeezed Vince's shoulder. Thank you. You're braver than you think. Outside, the morning air felt colder, sharper. Joanna turned to Keanu as they stood by her car. This is it, Keanu. This is how we bring them down. Keanu looked out at the rising sun. Its light cutting through the morning fog like a promise. Then let's finish what we started. Neither of them noticed the black sedan parked across the street, engine idling, windows tinted. Inside, the same man who had watched them at the diner picked up his phone and spoke two words into the darkness. They're moving. And in that moment, Keanu knew that the fight for truth and safety had just crossed a line. There was no turning back now. The next hours would test every ounce of trust, resilience, and courage he had left. The cold night air wrapped around Keanu Reeves and Joanna as they parked outside the old storage facility on the west side of the city. The place looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Rows of metal doors lined up under flickering security lights that buzzed like angry insects. Each step on the cracked pavement echoed in the silence. Keanu held the scrap of paper Vince had given him, Unit 27. He could almost hear the old mechanic's voice. If you find that drive, you'll have everything you need to end this. Joanna scanned the lot, her hand resting near the small radio on her belt. We do this fast. We get in, get the drive, get out. You ready? Keanu nodded, his jaw set. Ready. They moved quickly down the row, their breath rising in small clouds. When they reached Unit 27, they found the lock exactly where Vince had said. Joanna pulled out a small set of tools and worked the lock open with quiet precision. The door rolled up with a low creak, the smell of dust and old concrete hitting them immediately. Inside, the unit was mostly empty except for a battered metal filing cabinet and a large black duffel bag tucked behind it. Joanna flicked on her flashlight and opened the top drawer. Stacks of folders, receipts, and photos, pieces of lives shredded by secrets and lies. Keanu knelt by the duffel bag and unzipped it. Inside, wrapped in a layer of soft cloth, was the hard drive. He held it up, feeling the weight of what it meant. It was small, but in his hands, it felt like the heaviest thing he'd ever carried. "This is it," he said softly. "This is what he used to control people." Joanna checked over her shoulder, her eyes sharp. "We need to move. Once he knows this is gone, he'll panic." Keanu slipped the drive into his jacket pocket. They shut the cabinet and started to back out of the unit when a sudden noise froze them. A single click, like the sound of a gun's safety switch flipping off. Well, a voice drawled from the shadows. "Look who decided to go treasure hunting." 3 figures stepped into the dim light near the unit door. The man in front wore a leather jacket, his smile thin and cruel. Behind him stood John Parsons, Austin Brady's cold-eyed bodyguard, and another man with a scar running down his cheek. Joanna shifted slightly, putting herself between Keanu and the men. "Back off, it's over," the leader laughed, a sound with no warmth at all. "It's not over till he says it is." Keanu's fingers brushed the hard drive in his pocket. Grounding himself, "Austin will go down for this. Whatever you think, you're protecting, it won't matter." John Parsons stepped closer, his eyes locked on Keanu. "Hand it over, Reeves, or you won't be walking out of here." For a moment, it felt like time stretched thin. The shadows seemed to press in from all sides. Joanna's hand hovered near her pocket, where she kept her small self-defense knife. Keanu's breath was calm, steady, but inside his chest his heart pounded like a drum. "I don't want anyone hurt," Keanu said quietly. "Walk away now. This is your last chance." The man with the scar lunged first, grabbing for Joanna. She twisted, driving her elbow into his ribs. The two of them crashed into the filing cabinet, sending papers flying like startled birds. John moved at Keanu, fists up, rage burning in his eyes. Keanu blocked the first swing, felt the force of it rattle through his arm. He had taken fight, training for movie roles, but this was different. This was real, raw. No stunt doubles to break the fall. The leader tried to grab for the drive, but Keanu ducked, his shoulder slamming into the man's chest. They tumbled into the dirt outside the unit. Joanna fought the man with the scar, her breathing ragged, but her strikes precise. She landed a hard punch that sent him sprawling. John caught Keanu around the neck, squeezing tight. Keanu's vision blurred at the edges, but he dug deep, remembering every lesson he'd ever learned about not giving up. With one sharp move, he shifted his weight and broke free, sending John stumbling backward. In the chaos, Joanna grabbed Keanu's arm. "Run, now!" They sprinted down the row of units, their footsteps echoing behind them. Angry shouts bounced off the metal doors. They didn't look back. Outside, they burst into the cold night, lungs burning. They reached Joanna's car, dove inside, and she slammed her foot on the gas. The car peeled out of the lot, gravel spraying into the dark. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city lights rushed past the window like smears of gold and red. Keanu stared straight ahead, his hands still pressed to the drive in his pocket. "We did it," Joanna said between heavy breaths. "We have what we need." Keanu turned to her, his eyes clear but heavy with everything they'd just survived. "Then let's make sure this was worth it." Behind them, at the edge of the storage lot, John Parsons watched the taillights fade into the night. His lip was split, blood on his shirt, but his eyes were cold as stone. He pulled out his phone and made a single call. "Boss," he said, voice flat. "They got the drive." On the other end, Austin Brady's voice hissed through the line like poison. "Then they just signed their death warrant." Keanu didn't know it yet, but as he sped away into the dark, he had already taken the first real step toward breaking a cycle of fear that had held too many people captive. But before dawn came, he would face one final test, one that would push him to the edge of everything he believed about courage, kindness, and standing up for what's right. The city felt different at 3 in the morning. Keanu Reeves sat in Joanna's car outside an old brick building that used to be a newspaper office. Inside, lights glowed behind drawn curtains, and the faint hum of computers drifted through the walls. This was the safe house, a place where secrets turned into truth. Joanna looked over at him, her eyes tired but fierce. Once we hand this over, there's no going back. Austin will know exactly who did this. Keanu held the hard drive in his hands, turning it over slowly. It seemed so small for something that could ruin a man who thought he was untouchable. He thought about Maria, about Adam the pilot, about Vince, about the quiet people who never had a voice when men like Austin Brady held power over them. He thought about all the times he'd trusted his gut and how it had brought him here to this moment. Then we do it, Keanu said. Not for me, for everyone he's hurt. They stepped inside. The place smelled like old books and warm coffee. A young reporter named Kyle sat hunched over a laptop, eyes wide when he saw Keanu walking. Joanna had called him a few hours ago, promising him the biggest story of his career. You really got it? Kyle asked, voice barely above a whisper. Keanu set the drive on the table. It's all there, every deal, every bribe, every threat. Kyle plugged it in, his fingers flying over the keys. Files opened one after another, spreadsheets of secret payments, hidden contracts, photos of men exchanging briefcases under neon signs, proof that Austin Brady had built his empire on fear. As the files loaded, Joanna paced the room. We leak this to the press, the police, everyone. Once it's out, he can't silence anyone. Kyle looked up, excitement and fear mixing in his eyes. You know he's going to come for you, right? Both of you. Keanu gave a small, tired smile. I know, but the truth is worth it. Outside, the street was quiet, too quiet. Joanna's phone buzzed. She stepped away, listening, her face turning pale. She turned to Keanu, voice low but sharp. Security just called. Austin's men are on the move. They know where we are. Kyle's eyes darted to the windows. What do we do? Keanu felt his heartbeat steady. He had never thought of himself as fearless, just someone who chose not to let fear decide who he was. He looked at Joanna. How long do you need to upload everything? 10 minutes, Kyle said. Maybe less. Keanu nodded. Lock the doors. Keep your head down. We protect the truth until it's out. A black SUV rolled to a stop outside the building. Keanu and Joanna crouched by the windows. They saw shadows move behind the tinted glass. John Parsons stepped out first, gun hidden under his coat. Behind him, 2 other men in dark jackets. Joanna whispered, they'll try to shut us up before we hit send. Keanu's mind raced. He had no weapon, no stunt doubles, no script, just his belief that he would rather stand up for what's right than run. He looked at Joanna, and then at Kyle. Stay inside. Bolt the back door. Don't open it for anyone. Before Joanna could stop him, Keanu slipped out the side door, stepping into the cold, dark alley. His breath misted in the air. He walked around the corner, straight into the open where John could see him. John froze, surprised. You should have run, Reeves. Keanu kept his voice calm. It ends tonight, John. You want me? I'm right here. But the truth's already out. You can't bury it now. John's jaw tightened. Shut up. Hand over the drive. Keanu spread his hands. It's not here. It's being uploaded. You can't stop it. The men behind John shifted, unease on their faces. Even they knew what would happen when the files hit the news. The world would know what Austin Brady really was. John raised his gun, pointing it straight at Keanu's chest. You think you're a hero, huh? Think they'll remember you for this? Keanu stepped forward, unflinching. They won't remember me. They'll remember that good people didn't stay quiet. Inside, Joanna and Kyle watched the upload bar creep closer to 100%. Joanna's hand hovered over her phone, ready to call for backup. She whispered, "Come on, Keanu. Hold them off." Outside, John's finger twitched on the trigger. Keanu stood still, the wind cutting across his face. For a moment, he felt the fear. Then he let it pass through him. He thought of everyone counting on him, of what it meant to stand for something when it mattered most. But before John could fire, the building's front lights flooded the street. A loud voice shouted, "Police, drop it." A black and white patrol car skidded to a stop. Officers jumped out, weapons drawn. John's gun clattered to the pavement as he raised his hands, rage and defeat twisting his face. Inside, Kyle hit send. The files exploded across news sites, inboxes, and police channels in seconds. There was no stopping it. Now, as dawn broke over the city, Keanu stood by the police car, watching John and his men being led away in cuffs. Joanna came up beside him, her expression tired but relieved. "You did it," she said softly. Keanu shook his head. "We did it. Vince, Adam, Maria, you, all of us. We didn't let fear win." In the days that followed, headlines told the story of a fallen empire. Austin Brady was arrested trying to flee the country. Whistleblowers stepped forward, inspired by one man's refusal to stay silent. People who had lived in fear found their voices again. And as for Keanu Reeves, he returned to his quiet house, roses blooming bright in his garden, a reminder that even in the darkest times, courage and kindness could still grow. He knew threats might come again, but he also knew something stronger when people stand together for what is right. No amount of money or fear can silence them forever.